Okay, hello everyone. If this is the first session you're attending, hello. If you came to the session on Monday about how to choose your university, hello again. Today's session will be talking about admissions requirements and deadlines for graduate and postgraduate or doctoral degrees. I'm Quintessence, and I'm one of the Education USA Kazakhstan interns for the summer. So to provide an overview or an outline of what I'll be talking about, it's very simple. Today I'll just be talking about common application requirements and a little bit about deadlines. And then like Monday, I'll take questions at the end. So there are a lot of different requirements for completing applications for the universities that you might be planning on applying to in the US. There's the motivation letter, there's transcripts, there's the minimum degree requirements, test scores, and more. And we'll be going over all of these today and what they are. So before you start thinking of any questions regarding application deadlines and requirements, remember that requirements for universities are different and that not everything that I discuss or talk about today will be required for you once you do actually start applying for universities. So given this, you should always read the admissions guidelines closely for every university that you're applying to see what they specifically want and what they do not want from you. You should especially pay attention to any admissions guidelines for international students specifically, and we'll also go over some of the common application requirements that are usually required for international students only versus domestic students, which would be students in the US. So as far as minimum degree requirements go, in many cases, you'll only need a bachelor's or a BA degree to apply for either a master's or a doctorate program, so like a PhD, for example. Some universities do require specific coursework for degree programs, or they might actually require you to have certain degrees in order to apply. So for example, for a Juris Doctorate program, they might require you to have an LLM degree in order to apply. So not a bachelor's in LLM, a master's degree. The BA degree usually needs to be equivalent to the average BA degree in the US, which is 4 years of academic study. So some universities might have specific requirements depending on your home country, so the country that you were born in or have citizenship in. They might also have requirements or exceptions, sorry, for the 4 year degree requirement. So for example, 3 year degrees from universities that are participating in the Bologna process might be an exception for some universities. In a lot of cases, there isn't a minimum GPA requirement, but because universities all have different application requirements and different things that they want from applicants, some universities might have a GPA requirement. Usually the GPA requirement is between 3.0 and 3.6 on a 4.0 scale. So all universities will ask for transcripts, likely for every school you have attended, not necessarily, which doesn't necessarily mean every school that you received a degree in. So every school you attended means that they will ask for transcripts from universities that you might have taken courses at, but didn't receive a degree from. And this might also include any courses you studied or you took while you were like studying abroad, for example. So as an example, when I was in undergrad, I completed a course with a university in Norway while I was enrolled. And so if I'm applying for a PhD program, they might require me to submit the transcript from that course, even though I didn't receive a degree from that Norwegian university. Many universities will also allow for unofficial transcripts, which are copies of your official transcript that don't have like a signature from the records office or the school seal, and it's not being sent directly from the school to the university that you're applying to. Official transcripts are the opposite of this, so they usually have a signature from the records or registrar's office. They have the school seal, and it's usually being sent directly from the records office to the university that you're applying to. Even if universities allow for unofficial transcripts, you can still send an official transcript instead, and it might save you some time because if you do get accepted to the university, that's when they will require you to send an official transcript. But even if you don't do that, that's completely okay because you, like I said, won't need it and it won't be really required of you unless you're actually accepted to the university. You'll also most likely will have to translate or have your transcripts translated into English if they're not already in English. And universities might also ask for the original transcripts in the original language as well. So many universities also require you to submit test scores, and usually there most of them do, but there are some that don't. There are two main types of test scores that universities want from the students, and those are academic test scores and English language proficiency test scores. And that one specifically is for international students. The most common test scores universities will ask for come from the GRE test. The GMAT is usually an option for MBA students specifically, and the LSAT is reserved only for law students, so students applying for PhD or master's programs in areas of study related to law. The most common English language proficiency test that universities will ask for is the TOEFL or the IELTS. Those are the two most common ones. Usually they will allow you to submit test scores for one or the other as opposed to only one. Some universities also allow you to submit test scores for the PTE, which is the Pearson Test of English, or the DET, the Duolingual English test, but not that many universities ask for or allow you to submit test scores for these two tests. And even if they do, it's recommended that you take either the TOEFL or the IELTS anyway, because those are the two tests that are more transferable across all universities, because all universities will either ask for one or two of these, and usually they allow you to take both. So going back to the academic test, the GRE is the most common test and tests you on verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and analytical writing. The GMAT, which is reserved more for MBA students, tests you on quantitative reasoning, verbal reasoning, integrated reasoning, and analytical writing. And then the LSAT, which, like I said earlier, is only reserved for law students, will test you on reading comprehension, logical reasoning, analytical reasoning, and they also have an unscored writing sample that is also required for the LSAT. The minimum scores depend on the university. Most universities will have the minimum score on their admissions website, but there might be universities that don't actually ask for a minimum score, but you will still have to submit, or you still have to take and submit scores for either like the GRE or the GMAT or LSAT, for example. So like I previously said, universities require proof that you can take courses delivered in English, and the TOEFL and the IELTS are the most common tests that universities will accept to meet this requirement. The TOEFL offers paper and um, online options or internet options, and the minimum score varies by university. Um, some will accept, actually, you should note that some universities will accept scores from like 2 years ago. Some might only accept scores from within the last 6 months of the application deadline. So it really depends on the university specifically. So you want to be really mindful of how old your TOEFL or your IELTS or your GRE or GMAT test scores can be. The minimum score for IELTS doesn't vary as much from university to university. From what I've seen, most universities require around a 6.5 or 7.5 out of 9. And there's an in-person paper option and an in-person commuter option, where you go to a physical test site and take the IELTS. There's also a computer option or remote option, but that's not available in Kazakhstan right now. And the PTE and DT, like I said, are not as common. Um, you should really just focus on either taking the TOEFL or the IELTS. If they do have these listed as options on the admissions website, you're more than welcome to take them. And universities usually have their own minimum score for these two tests. So there are some exceptions to the English language proficiency rule or requirement as an international student. So, for example, if you are applying for an MA degree in the US, but you received your bachelor's in the UK or in Australia or New Zealand or some other English speaking country or program that was offered entirely in English, the university that you're applying to may waive this requirement, which means that you won't have to take any English language proficiency test. So you won't have to take the TOEFL, you won't have to take IELTS, PT, Duolingo English, or any of those tests. So next are recommendation letters. Most universities ask for around 2 to 3. There might be a few universities that might ask for 1. There might be some that allow you to submit up to 4. You might even get lucky and might find one that might not even ask for recommendation letters, but usually they ask for 2 to 3. Universities also have preferences on who should be writing your recommendation letter. So most commonly when universities do have a preference, they'll ask for either a faculty member or professor or your current or most recent supervisor. And for PhD applicants who have done research, especially, you should be asking your professor or faculty member who you did that research with for a recommendation letter. And regardless of who you ask, they should be someone that can speak to your positive qualities and can make a good argument for why the university would benefit from admitting you as a student. So all universities require you to submit a motivational letter. They may call this something different from a motivational letter, like a statement of purpose or a personal statement. And in the whether it's called a motivational letter, statement of purpose, or personal statement, this is really your opportunity to demonstrate your personal fit with the university. So you might want to answer questions like what aspects of the university or what aspects of the program are you most interested in and you're most enthusiastic about. You definitely want to address why you're applying to that specific university or for that MA degree or that PhD degree or that JD degree and why you're applying for that specific program. And you might also want to address what and how you will contribute to the university. So what about your characteristics? What about your past experiences, your knowledge, your areas of expertise? Could you contribute to the university in a way that will benefit them? And for PhD applicants, you'll most likely also be asked to write about your research topics and research topics of interest and which faculty member you want to work with, and of course, why you want to work with that specific faculty member. You'll most likely be asked to write about that in your motivational letter or statement of purpose or personal statement. So you may also have other requirements depending on where you apply to and your specific program of choice. Other requirements include portfolios. And this is really especially the case for any arts programs or degrees in architecture. Some universities might ask for auditions or require auditions, and this is once again really for students applying to arts programs like music or dance. Universities might ask for video essays or writing samples. A lot of them ask for resumes or curriculum vitae or CVs, which we'll talk more about in a later session. And they might also ask for a CAS report. And this one especially is specifically for law students. So if you're applying to like an IT program, for example, you probably won't be asked to submit a CAS report. But if you're applying for a JD program, you'll most likely see a requirement for a CAS report. Many universities have application fees as well, and they can range anywhere from like 65 USD or US dollars to over 155 US dollars. Some universities provide fee waivers if you do meet requirements for those, and some don't. And if they do, or if they don't, they should have that information on their admissions website. International students also need to provide proof of academic fund or financial funding for at least one whole academic year. And this is usually required once you're admitted into the university. But once again, since universities have different admissions guidelines and different requirements for being admitted into the university, you want to read the university's admissions requirements, especially if they have a specific tab for international students, in case they're asking for proof of funding when you apply, as opposed to after you're accepted into the university. So application deadlines for MA and doctorate programs are usually done in 2 to 3 rounds or cycles. It's better to apply earlier rather than later, since early applicants often receive priority consideration for financial aid and will receive their admissions decision earlier. It's also okay to apply in round 2 or round 3 because you'll get more time to get your application materials ready and to perfect your essays and motivational letters, or even retake some of the required tests if you didn't think you performed so well. Something you want to look out for is early decision admission, or EDA. Many universities offer early decisions admission, and this is a binding contract that requires the student to attend that university if they are accepted. So when you're applying for universities, and if you see this, you should only agree to this agreement if this is your number one university, or if you like really want to attend the university, or if it's your dream university. Because once you're accepted, and if you do agree to this, once you're accepted into the program, you'll have to withdraw your applications to all the other universities that you applied to upon acceptance to that university. Okay. So that's really all for this session. Pretty short session. Upcoming sessions we have this week and early next week include financial aid for international students, like types of financial aid, where you can find financial aid, and that's also a component of the admissions process or the application process. But since it's a hot topic for international students, we're making it its own session, so I'm not really going to address too much questions about financial aid in this session specifically. So if you are interested in financial aid, you should attend Friday session, June 23rd, and we're having that from 7 to 8:30 p.m., just like all the other sessions. Next Monday, we'll be having a session on curriculum vitae, or CV and resume letter writing, which is something that's often required by a lot of universities when you're sending out applications. And next Tuesday, we'll be having a session on requesting a strong recommendation letter. Please note that all sessions are offered at the same time, 7 to 8:30 p.m. And please do not join the Zoom room until around 6:50 p.m. at the earliest. I won't be in the Zoom room earlier than that, so if you do join, you won't see like anything on the screen at all. We also, as you may have noticed, don't start presentations until 7:05 p.m. So it's okay to show up a little bit later after 7. We don't always start right at 7, just to accommodate people that might show up late. And so this is our contact information. You can contact Donna, my supervisor and Education USA Kazakhstan advisor in Almaty, through WhatsApp at +7 701 266 9680, or by email at dnakayeva@educationusa.org. If you have any questions you want to address to me specifically after this session, you can contact me via WhatsApp at +7 705 985 7408, or email at qtownsend@middlebury.edu. And if you scan the QR code, it will take you to a document with links to the academic and English language tests that I talked about. So you can click on the links to learn more about scores, what they'll test you on, how long the test is, and how you can take the test. I update this document before session, so if you come to Friday's session on financial aid for international students, you might see new resources in the document. There's also a link to the folder that has other student or other materials from Monday's session, including the recording for Monday's session and the slides. Okay, so thank you for listening and attending the session. If anyone has any questions, they can submit those in the chat now.